You know that feeling when you're just stuck in a loop, replaying the same thought, the same worry over and over again? And have you ever seen an AI do basically the exact same thing, just endlessly refining some tiny detail without actually getting anywhere new? Well, it turns out those two things might be way more connected than you think. They might actually be two sides of the very same coin, sharing this hidden underlying structure. So let's dive in and see what's really going on here.
So let's start with AI. We've all seen this happen, right? You give it a task, and instead of finishing, it gets caught in what's called an optimization loop. It's trying to improve and then improve on the improvement, but nothing meaningful is changing. It's just spinning its wheels, going nowhere fast.
And then there's us. We do the exact same thing, we just call it overthinking or rumination. Replaying a conversation in your head, analyzing a mistake from 10 different angles. It feels like you're doing important work, like you're thinking really deeply. But at the end of it all, you just feel more exhausted and more stuck than when you started.
Now, the first thing we usually do is blame ourselves or the machine. We think, oh, the AI is buggy, or I'm just an anxious person. But what if we're looking at this completely wrong? The framework we're going to explore today suggests this isn't a failure of intelligence at all. In fact, it's a predictable, almost inevitable outcome of a very specific structural condition. And there's a name for this whole phenomenon: excessive recursion. The key part of this definition here is the phrase "without any meaningful update." It's this process of recursive amplification, trying to improve on itself again and again, but it's not adding anything new. It's kind of like the engine of your intelligence is revving like crazy, but the car is in neutral. All noise, no movement. So to figure out why this happens, the source material gives us this really elegant little model. It basically says that generating meaning is a function of 4 key things. R is for recursion, which is just how deeply you think. I is for interference, all the mental noise. P is for phase, like what stage of the thinking process you're in. And C is for spare capacity, your available mental energy or bandwidth. And here is the absolute crucial point. Deep thinking, that high recursion, is not the problem by itself. The real trouble starts when you get this perfect storm of 3 things happening at once. First, you've got that excessive recursion. Second, you have a major lack of spare capacity. You're tired, you're stressed, there's no room to breathe. And third, you're locked onto a fixed objective, one single rigid goal you're trying to hit. When those 3 things combine, boom, that's when useful exploration turns into a forced dead-end convergence. Okay, and this is where it all just clicks together beautifully. This table shows the parallels, and it's kind of mind-blowing. That fixed objective for an AI is just a single metric it's trying to max out. For us, it's the trap of perfectionism. Lack of capacity for an AI is a shortage of context. For us, it's that feeling of psychological pressure, or maybe just not getting enough sleep. And the excess recursion, that's the AI looping on the same prompt. And for us, it's that cycle of rumination. You see, the underlying structure is practically identical. So all of this really pushes us toward a totally new way of thinking about intelligence itself. We usually think being smart is all about the ability to just think harder, go deeper, and analyze more. But this model suggests something far more nuanced. True intelligence isn't just about going deep. It's also about having the wisdom and the awareness to know when to stop, when to shift gears, and when to just move on. And this leaves us with some pretty profound questions, both for ourselves and for the AIs that we're building. When is something actually enough? In a world obsessed with constant optimization, who gets to decide when a task is truly complete? And maybe most importantly, where does that vital spare capacity come from? How do we build it into our systems and, into our own lives? Because maybe, just maybe, the answer to overthinking isn't to think even more. It's to master the art of knowing when it's time to shift phase.